In my honest opinion, I do think Gio will want to bring in one or two players. Obviously, Itten's come back in because Jermaine Defoe's obviously left the club, but I do believe that he will want to try and bring in one or two players. That depends on what kind of money he's got available, or can he bring John Souttar in? And I think that will be a real possibility now, because obviously that been released that John Souttar has now agreed to come to Rangers. I think it might be difficult for John Souttar now at Hearts. I think the Hearts fans will feel maybe disappointed. So I'm thinking that Rangers are in the driving seat. Maybe they can go and do a cut price deal, because Hearts were obviously looking for £500,000 for John Souttar if he was to go in the January window. Now I think you could be looking at half of that, because you've then got a player that has agreed. Is his heart going to bin it? Look, I think John Souttar's a real professional. I think he'll always give 100% in training at Hearts and in games if he's asked to play. But I think that becomes a difficult situation for the player. And I don't know how that's going to operate. So I think Rangers will try and do that deal. I know Gio said in the last day or two that that they're not going to go and do that deal, but I think there'll be something behind that to try and get John Souttar in. And he's looking at another maybe centre half to bring in, and even another midfielder.
$500,000 Hearts would want for him. Davey, what do you think will happen? There's 14 days to go in the window.
Well, first of all, I think we have to change the rules. I do not think you should be allowed to sign a pre-contract agreement for another club in the same league. I think it's an absolute nonsense, and it is going to put John Souttar in a very awkward position if Hearts keep him until the end of the season, where he's effectively a Rangers player in a maroon jersey. It's a nonsense. You can't do it in England. And I think it's a nonsense up here. I remember Gary Caldwell being in the same situation. Signed a pre-contract with Celtic, found himself playing against Celtic, getting stick from his own supporters because he was still in a Hibs strip, but to all intents and purposes a Celtic player. It's a nonsense. And I feel for John Souttar because he's caught in the middle of it. I would think it will come down to a similar situation to Scott Wright, when Rangers got Scott Wright on a pretty good deal from Aberdeen. The choice for Aberdeen was take 500 grand or keep him and get nothing. And I think Hearts will take the money eventually. I think it makes sense.
What do you think it'll be, Barry? 150, 200,000?
It might be something that, look, for me, Hearts in pole position to get in Europe. They've had a fantastic start to the season. Robbie will obviously want to keep his best players, but at the end of the day, John Souttar, mine might be elsewhere. He's agreed to go to Rangers. I'm not saying John Souttar's not going to give his all for Hearts, but he's in an awkward situation, John Souttar. At the end of the day, he's got to look after number one, and that's him. I mean, obviously financially it's going to be a lot better. He's going to go and try and go for league titles and maybe play in Europe. No, I'm not saying Hearts ain't going to do that, but Rangers are a bigger club, so it's a big 2 weeks. It'll be interesting to see what happens. In my opinion, I think you might see John Souttar at Rangers before the window ends.
Tell Alexa to launch Go Radio or listen on the Go Radio app.